welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. To on Mark Farner. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Sean. I'm glad to be back.
I'm glad you're back. I had a great response when you were on, and I had a good time when you were on, and obviously I'm a big fan of yours. So I got a lot of people that were asking questions, some older fans, some new fans. So I thought we'd hit some of those. Maybe even if the history's out there, you can maybe clarify or answer these fans directly, in the questions. And then want
Yeah,
to end and talk about some of the songs you've done recently. And then you're on tour and direct
yeah,
people back to the website, the dates, and some really cool merch you got out there.
yeah, man.
Um, but one of the really good things we got, one of the first things that the fans were asking is when you came out, your music, because you guys came out, you guys were kind of funky and bluesy and this real good jam band, but you guys also had like a 1950s, 60s harmonies going on. Was there a certain influence that kind of brought that into you there?
Well, it was all the radio that we listened to, Sean. It was, CKLW out of Windsor, Ontario, a big radio station that came booming into Flint, Michigan. We had WTAC, WTRX, WAMM, and back then it was all AM, all
Yep.
AM radio, amplitude modulation, and FM hadn't even been thought of when we were listening to all this music. And Motown, being right down the street in Detroit,
Yep.
coming out with all of the, Miracles and the Temptations and the Four Tops and Aretha and come on, Little Eva, the Locomotion, all these dance tunes. And my sister Diane and I used to go to these hops that the DJs would put on, and we'd enter into these dance contests, and we won a lot of them because her and I danced together, as partners. We knew what to do because we were doing it all the time after my mother showed us how to dance. God rest her soul. She, influenced us and got us over the hump, so to speak, as far as being shy or being self-conscious about going out on the dance floor. Because once you're out there, it's like every other eyes in the room is
Yes.
surrounding you, are watching you. And I got to where I was digging it because I was one of the only guys on the dance floor. And if you go to a bar and they got a dance floor, the guys that are out on the dance floor are the lucky guys. They get to, with all these ladies, they're out there, they're motivated, they watch, they move, they're encouraged to do this by watching that, and there's some interaction, and then all these other guys that wish they could go out there, they really could. Only thing holding them back is their pride.
Yep.
They don't want to look like a klutz. Well, I guarantee you, if the guy would just take the plunge and go out there and watch and just move, let himself be natural, the women would welcome that to the dance floor. I have talked to him about this. Trust me. And life would be better. This was what influenced us. This kind of music, it influenced Grand Funk. I wrote 92% of the music. So in the early years, that's all I had on my mind. That, and we played the Yardbirds and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, all of these songs when we would go do the Battle of the Bands. That was
Mhm.
before I was writing music. I was doing that kind of stuff, but it had to be something you could dance to, or, something that moved me in order to be in the set.
It was just clearly, I mean, because the harmonies were very beautiful and they harken back to the previous decade of really good songwriting, obviously. But then you guys also had your own sound on top of it. Like you incorporated your own styles into it with whether it be the bass or the guitar, and the bass and guitar and the vocals together was kind of fresh. What you guys do. A lot of the bands are doing their own fresh versions. Humble Pie, all you guys are doing stuff around that time. Same vein, but it was all a little different though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Humble Pie opened for us when we did a European tour in early 70s there. I think it even might have been 1970, but they listened to, on the boombox in their dressing room, they listened to all this Motown music,
Yep.
dude, all of this R&B, rhythm and blues, and stuff danceable. And I'm thinking, those guys are all right. And then when I met, Stevie Marriott and the rest of the band, then we'd go after the gig, we'd go out to a pub someplace, and Marriott and I would sit across the table from each other, and he would just start singing. And it's like, and I mean, he belted it out, dude. I mean, there was some sound pressure level behind his notes. And I'm sitting across from him, and I'd get inspired, and I just, hey, it's like, okay, man. Then we got people coming over to hear us, standing around us, going, yeah, and they're egging us on. It's, there's something about the human voice and the happiness that can abide there if you got it in your heart to start with, and that's what your intention is. As you mentioned, Humble Pie had it. I mean, because they had that R&B influence, the same as Grand Funk had the R&B and that soulful. We used to set up and listen to John R. way down south in Dixie on the Royal Crown Hairdressing Show, WLAC, Nashville, Tennessee. It would come in after 11 o'clock at night. And my buddy Curtis, his grandma had this radio that was huge radio with this big speaker. It was an AM radio made out of wood. The whole thing was a piece of furniture. And he'd tune that thing. Okay, here it is. Here he comes. And then you'd hear John R. you unmistakable voice. And then we'd sit there, listen to music, and eat the horseradish and mayonnaise on white bread, folded over like that, and eat that sandwich. We would finish a loaf of bread, brother. Listening.
That is awful.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
It was a gas. It was a real gas.
You had me to the horseradish and mayonnaise. Oh God. That's some rough stuff, man.
Oh yeah.
But and I'm assuming, and this plays into some of the other questions. What I have is a collection of some, maybe not pedestrian, but some questions people have asked. I kind of formulate them a little bit for an easier way to digest it. But those were probably where you chose some of the cover songs. Because when you guys did cover songs, nowadays people do cover songs, it's like, oh, this version. But you guys owned a cover version. Like, I knew your songs better than other versions, originals. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not a dig towards the other artists. It's a compliment, pay forward to you, because you took what was in you, but it was not just you, it was your love of the song and the artist on top of it.
That's it. That's exactly it, Sean. And we loved it so much that we would have hated to do something less than our heart could muster and that our soul could muster. And when Todd Rundgren heard us singing Locomotion out in the parking lot, the guys, it was, they were taking a break. I had gone home from across the street to the farm for lunch, and I'm coming back, and I could hear those guys out in the parking lot, but there's the trees, the forest was preventing seeing them. But I'm walking down there, and I just start singing, a beautiful sunshiny day. Everybody's doing a brand new dance. Here they come with the backgrounds. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. And Todd comes walking out, and he says, what is that? What is that? I said, what is that? That's Little Eva, man. That's the Locomotion. He says, well, get your ass in here, because we're going to cut the Locomotion right now. And we had a party, because that's the first time that he had been introduced to that song. He said, man, that is a party song. I said, yeah, man, let's have a party. And Sean, he pushed a red button on the 24 track, and he came out into the studio and made this song with us. It was Rundgren on all those high falsetto parts. And when it came to my guitar lead, he went over to the Echoplex and he grabbed the head, and wow. And so the guitar was going, and it goes, I mean, just, it was crazy, wonderful, fun, and people got it. Like, what you said, brother, that you like that version better than the original version, but we paid compliments to it. We were lifting it up, because that's what made us who we are.
Well,
as
it
music.
sounds like you're celebrating it. That's probably the best phrase. Wait a second. It sounds like you're celebrating a song you like, and because you have an audience that's probably it was more commercially viable at the time, which also works out well for those artists because they get money back from that success, and then they get to perform that song themselves
That's
because it's
right.
more popular. So it really works well in some kind of like circle of life thing there, especially if it's an artist doing it properly.
Yeah, man. Same thing with Some Kind of Wonderful. John Ellison was the writer of Some Kind of Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Soul Brothers Six. We heard that song on WAMM, on WTRX, WTAC, CKLW. We heard, they were playing this song all the time, and we thought it was a nationwide song, but really it was a regional hit. The Soul Brothers Six, who was John Ellison's band, they were out of Philadelphia, and it wasn't until later on that we learned that I learned, and I met John, and actually I presented John Ellison his West Virginia Music Hall of Fame award on stage in West Virginia, and I got to sing the second verse when they performed it
How
live.
cool is that? That is
God, yeah, man, pinch me. And what a marvelous individual he is. Uh, a great father and grandfather and artist, carries this little tiny guitar around with him, and he plays the shit out of that thing, man. I'm telling you, he's a performer. It's in him. It's who he is. But we used to warm up with the song. I didn't know John when we were in the back of the limousine, warming up to Some Kind of Wonderful. I don't need a whole lot of money. I don't need no big fine car. And our manager at the time, Andy Cavalieri, he pulled that window back. He said, "What the hell is that? You guys keep singing that song." And I said, "Man, that's a Soul Brother Six, Some Kind of Wonderful." He says, "You guys need to record that." And Jimmy Einer, who was the producer of that, and also produced Bad Time to Be in Love in 1975
yeah.
on All the World Beware album. He was a producer who could bring out the vocals, which that song really needed, as
Yeah.
far to communicate the message and the good time. And when that song starts, just the bass and the drums playing, doo-dum, 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 you see the people come out on the dance floor. You just see they come out in waves. It's like calling them. And it's a great dance tune, a good party tune, and people love to sing it with us. When I don't you know that she is, and I point the microphone at the audience. It's loud, man. Some Kind of Wonderful. It's
You
great to.
can't hear it and not smile. It's one of those songs, and I think your band arguably at the time was your band in my eyes was quintessential for that because you guys were known, and even the production from the very beginning, it was the instruments always stood separately when the harmonies together. And
Yeah,
Locomotion and Some Kind of Wonderful are the perfect songs to do with that setup because the
yeah,
way they break down, and you guys always had decent, like not decent, but like good production to always cut them apart. I do want to talk about different producers you had, but that was the perfect song for you. I mean, plus, Some Kind of Wonderful has been done a million times, but it always goes back to you because you have a little bit extra in your voice where it's very soulful, and you just I feel like that was the kid hearing it on the radio. That was the young man who was
yep,
singing it along, wanting
yep,
to be that guy. It
yeah,
feels real.
absolutely, absolutely, and
Can't fake that.
that's what I told John Ellison when I finally met him. Because he was thanking us, thanking me personally. He said because it was only a regional hit until you guys got a hold of it. And he says, and man, when you sing that song, brother Mark, he says it's a compliment to me. But he says because it was hard for black music to be played back then. It was hard to get it on the radio
Yeah, it's a
because
crime.
there was some discrimination at the time. I think, there's always been some discrimination against it, and the powers that be and who owns this and who owns that. And that's kind of, the reason that radio and television are the way they are nowadays, because the people who had the money after the deregulation of the SEC bought all the radio. I was in Mexico City, Sean, and they said, this is the last interview. I'm on a 100,000 watt station in Mexico City. And the guy tells me, this is the last interview, rock and roll, that we'll do. I'm thinking, why? Why? I mean, why? And the guy says, well, we just got bought up by Clear Channel. And I went, oh, man, are you kidding me? And the same thing echoed in Tokyo, in Hong Kong. It was all over where I was traveling. Clear Channel was buying up the voice to speak the narrative they want to speak, to play the music that they want to play. And instead of being listener influenced, the local stations are playing a playlist that some dude in New York City is.
What was the date of that? Like, what year was that?
1996 was the deregulation, brother. And since then, it has turned to shit. Radio was so much better when it was the independent owned stations of families, of moms and dads and grandpas and grandmas who owned the television stations and the radio stations. And there was a moral conscience over what the children were seeing and hearing. And since the takeover in 96, the moral conscience is gone.
I do think, though, in the 80s, payola between the record labels and the radio stations made it ripe for the picking. It was eating on a corpse of just like, take me, because that's all I want. I mean, if it wasn't doing that, it would have been hard for them to take them over, because you could actually stand your ground united. But everybody was about the money.
Yep.
And at that point, the Billboard numbers weren't true, because it was like a suitcase of cocaine or something ridiculous. And then all of a sudden, we'll play your channel, we'll play your song. And it shifted. And luckily now we got the internet and internet radio, and it's gone out the window now. Radio and record labels have kind of shot themselves in the foot now.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, because finally the truth, and like your program here, Sean, the people are hearing the truth. They're not, have to wonder about what happened. They now know what happened. And when I say that it was way better when it was the independent and it was the people, I mean, when we would do Channel 5 in Cleveland, Ohio, Herman Spiro owned the station. It was the Upbeat show, and Tommy Baker, who was the band leader for the Upbeat show, was the guy who wrote all of the orchestration for the song Closer to Home. We would go over to Herman Spiro's house, and his son David was running this 8mm wind up, 8mm with no sound, but just the visual was great. And we'd be playing touch football or tag, where you pull the red flag football.
Oh yeah, whatever. Flag football, yeah.
And having fun, having a cookout. And this is, what made it what it was. It was so good, because when we would show up there, James Brown would be there, or Otis Redding would be there, Mitch Ryder, the Detroit Wheels would be there. I mean, other bands of that era would be on there with us, and we were all friendly, dude. No competition.
I think. Do you think though? And this is me looking back from I've learned, and that's kind of modeled the show after, is because this is not a for-profit show. This is purely motivated. That's not about money at all. It's literally about my love of music and a love of getting the information out there. The DJs had more power because they were larger than the stations, so they controlled the artists and the guests, and it was more sincere because they loved the artists and they loved the music, and the radio stations couldn't maneuver it. Then it changed when the DJs worked for them and they could be sold in contracts. Then the DJs become a commodity.
Yeah.
And then it changed. Man. And they got the list in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you could, on the tour bus, you go from state to state to state. It's the same playlist, dude. It's like, I could tell you the next song in rotation. Just sick. Just, so thank God for the internet and so the little bit of freedom that we can experience And for our brothers and sisters who have bands that would have never gotten heard, you know,
Yeah.
if it was up to mainstream, we call it lame stream radio to play their music. But, you know, it's in our heart. Rock and roll is in the heart. And Jack Black was right. Rock and roll is in the face of the man. And the man wants to exercise control and put restrictions on us. And it's only because of the illusion of the value of money. You know, it's the money. Well, the love of money is the root of all evil. That's for sure.
Right.
And for us guys who do it because the music's in our heart, we want to speak it because it's moving our soul. We want to write this song because we want to reach out to people who feel like us. We want to unite under this banner of love.
Yeah.
And the only thing holding that back are the people who want to control all the shit. But you know, that's backfiring on them. And
no, and I'm sorry, I'm doing a step on you. I do want to say something now before I forget in defense of an artist. And it's what started this whole show hundreds of episodes back is I was at a concert and people were complaining about the price of shirts, and people have heard me say it before. And it bothered me because I do have a degree in music, and I don't do anything now. I just started the show out of habit just because I love music.
Yeah.
But people don't realize the cost for an artist. An artist should be able to do music and still make money and have, because there's no health insurance, there's no retirement. But when you get a ticket and it's 30, 40, 50, there's insurance, there's the venue, there's money, there's like everything goes out to everybody. The profit is so small for the artist after paying for this. There's insurance, it's $1,000 a day easy for a bus. Then you got to pay for the band and this person lights. Then you got union, and there's times, and then there's so many things to pay for. If you have shirts, you're dragging them behind the bus, and it's even using up gas. How many shirts and how many sizes, how many layers of colors? But people don't realize that. And so all that cost of a $30 shirt, a $50 ticket, the profit margin is not that large. It's like working a regular job, but getting older and sleeping on a bus and then trying to make everybody happy and feeling good for sleeping on a bus or a hotel.
Yeah, brother. And add on top of that, the fee that the venue charges you to sell your merchandise.
Yes, you're right. I forgot to add that. That's like 30%. I heard it's like a mob.
30. Yes, 30%. And I've never had my name intentionally. I've never had it printed on anything but U.S. cotton, United States manufactured here, because I am a homeboy. I love the USA. I drive cars made here. My 2011 Yukon was made in Arlington, Texas, and my 2012 Sierra 6.6 Duramax was made in Flint, Michigan. I drive because I'm supporting the workers who work here, my American brothers and sisters. And I know that if I don't support my country, all hell is going to fall down on us. You know, really. But that has not been passed on. I don't know how it got dropped. But when I would drive up into the driveway with a new Chevy or Buick, and the neighbor across the road says, "Hey, thanks, Mark, for keeping my job strong," because he worked at Buick or Chevrolet, wherever that came from. You know, that's the kind of sentiment I was raised with, and to see how you know, at these shows how they're charging the 30%. How the hell can they're able to make the money from the ticket sales, and then they want a piece of the action? It used to be, you know, we lived during an era where there was no percentage taken. And then back like in the 80s, they started this, taking a percentage. And it was 5%, and then 10%, and then 50, up to 30%, and sometimes 35%, Drew. I'm telling you what, it's way too much for anybody to even believe, but we're living it.
It's a lot. And I think, you know, and bands don't talk about it, so I like to bring it up so the fans are aware when they go in there. it's not really going to the artist, and the artist is really getting hit by it just to keep coming out. And at some point, if everyone keeps not going, the hit's too much, and they're not going to see their favorite artist anymore. So it's really just a balancing act of being like, you know what, I want to see the artist. This is how it is. It's not any easier for them. They're not getting rich off these profits. This is not them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I,
And
yeah,
shirt cost, the price of that shirt has to be adjusted up so that there's no loss involved in having it there for the fans to buy.
Mhm.
Can you imagine? I mean, having to eat that 30% and then try and make a profit, dude. It'd be impossible.
I would
So
have my people selling stuff out in the parking lot,
yeah, yeah,
looking out for them, selling in the parking lot. That's what I would be doing.
just like they do in Mexico. They sell more of the bootlegs out there along on the street in the parking lot. There's so many of them. I'm talking there'd be 150 bootleggers out there that the guys inside can't even compete with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. So that's one of the things I like to do in the show is go to the merch, go get the merch from the artist. Go to Mark's website. It's great. It's got some videos on there. Got dates for his concerts coming up. Buy his merch off the site.
Yeah.
And actually, while we're on that, and then we'll go back. I want to talk to some producers afterwards. But while we're on that thing, you actually have two solo videos. You got more, but two of your solo videos. 220, you did the rock and soul music one, and then my personal favorite is when first time you came on was Never and Always, which is a beautiful song.
Thank you.
Your vocals on that, I mean, you're a great guitar player, but your vocals on that are absolutely beautiful, and they're absolutely a little bit different than what you normally have known for, which is fun.
Yeah, it's that's that part of me that goes back and listens to, the R&B, the soulfulness, and the believability of that song. Because when I when I go into the overdub room and I'm this far away from the microphone, I got my eyes closed, Sean, and I'm holding on to the headphones, and I'm getting the right amount of hearing my voice in the cups of the headphone, but I bleed it back just a little bit and let my ear be exposed to the resonance in the room, and I find that sweet spot, and I imagine the character that I'm portraying with my lyrics, with my presentation of the lyrics, my performance. Because if you don't put that much into it, what are you going to get out of it? Seriously, people can hear that, the emotion, as you've just said. It's not typical to what I'm known for, but
Yeah.
but it is believable because I became the character when I sang it.
It's beautiful. It really is. And I was able to check it out. It's nice because it balances on the power ballad you'd hear in the late 80s, 90s, but it's got the soulfulness of the 70s. So it doesn't feel like it gets cheesy. It just feels just beautiful, and it's a nice balance. I do have two questions on how did you end up having Todd Rundgren as a producer? And then I want to ask about, I want to end on actually working with Frank Zappa. Those are two interesting things I always wanted to worry about. What a great combination of you and those guys. If you could just touch on each of those for a minute, like Todd first.
Well, with Todd, you know, we had a hat. We had a bunch of producers' names in the hat, write them down on a little piece of paper, fold them up, and reach in and pull one out. It just happened to be Todd Rundgren. We had some great producers in there that we were going to approach. We hadn't talked to any of them. This was just like, okay, we're going to do this and then see if they'll do it. Whoever we pick.
It's a dream list.
Yes, exactly. So when it was Todd Rundgren, well, Lynn Goldsmith, who was our publicist, but she was more of a co-manager, her ideas. So she came up with all those album covers from the 70s, well, in all of the 70s, except for like 71, She was like from Phoenix on, all the album covers. But she said, you know, Todd is a friend of mine, and I can, I'll approach him and see if he wants to, give a listen to you guys and what have you. So we already had our foot in the door with Lynn Goldsmith, because she'd already worked with Todd on some other projects, some filming and what have you. And then when he agreed to come out and hear the band, we had sent him a tape. And then when he heard the band and he heard us live and he got with us, he was sold on doing it, and he knew it was going to be a good record. And with Zappa, same way. Reach in, pull out. Oh, Frank Zappa. Oh man, you think he'd do it?
What great production on those albums. But I mean, and Frank Zappa, what a great album too. It's very cleanly produced.
Yes, and it was his idea for the title for that, Good Singing, Good Playing. He says, let's just call it what it is, good singing, good playing. And when Zappa came out to Michigan and he walked into the swamp, this we lovingly call our studio the swamp. We built it way back on the end of the property where we had to dig a pond in order to get a perk test to put the building in. He walks in, and Craig Frost was backed up to Don Brewer in the hallway, and he farted on his leg. It was a thing that he did, just goofing around. And Zappa walks in. Why this is going on? He says, "Okay, I'm in it. I've seen all I need to see. I'm here. Let's get this thing rolling." He says, "I've got enough evidence right there. I want to be involved." That
was great. I'm sure the love of vocals. He was a great lover of good harmonies and doo-wop type vocals, and you guys must have been like perfect for him to come in to do that.
Yeah,
it makes sense on paper to me.
He loved it, and he was going to have me sing on his next album, but he checked out and went on into heaven before that could happen. But man, for him to just ask me if I wanted to sing, I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
In a minute.
I love that you even think that much of me, that you want me to sing. And the song was Bamboozled by Love.
Yeah. Oh, he wanted you to sing on that one?
Yes.
Oh
Lord, the shit done hit the fan.
You may need to do that as a cover. You may need to put that out there, do something. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
A little tribute type of thing.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea, Sean.
A lot of Zappa fans, a lot of Mark Farner fans. Might be kind of a fun combo for us to hear them together. Oh
yeah. And my band could late.
I'm sure you could do it. And that's actually a perfect thing to say. So people, Mark's on the road, February. Check them out. Got a couple dates already up on there. New York, I think. I don't know. I got the worst memory. You probably know better than I do.
No, I don't.
All right. People, go to his website. The link will be underneath the show. We're too old to remember stuff. Just go and click on it. It has the dates, the tickets. Everything's there for you. It's the blessings of the internet. Mark, I want to thank you for being on the show. It's been fun as always.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate your heart, and appreciate the people that listen to you, that watch, and that will get something out of this. God bless y'all. It seems like people around us, the pressure, the darkness that wants to harness us and put a bridle on us, that's all encroaching, but we are the only ones that can set ourselves free from it. There's all kinds of debt, not only monetary debt, but the debt of unfulfilled expectations of other people, the debt of regret that we hold against ourselves. But we got to get rid of all that shit so that the rock and roll and so that the love can pour out so much that it overcomes this darkness that's trying to suppress us, and we'll kick its ass by loving it.
Couldn't say it better. Well, thank you, and we'll chat again. Thank you.
All right, Sean. God bless.